8 spine-chilling corner store secrets exposed. Terrifying encounters that will haunt your dreams. The fluorescent lights flickered in the corner store like a warning signal, illuminating the dusty aisles filled with expired goods. As shadows crept through the narrow gaps, Sarah locked the door behind her, breathing a sigh of relief mixed with dread. Late shifts in Oak Grove had started feeling like a horror show, where every whisper among the shelves could turn into a scream. She tightened her grip on her keys, the metal cool against her palm, but nothing could shake this gnawing feeling that she was never truly alone. The rustling leaves outside sounded like a voice calling her back, but she was determined to get home to Mia. Just 2 nights ago, she noticed something odd while restocking cereal. Hidden above in the ceiling tiles were wires, not just any wires, but ones connected to tiny, menacing cameras tucked away like hidden eyes. Panic had surged through her veins, but she forced herself to dismiss it, to shake it off as paranoia. Yet, every time she heard the soft whir of the surveillance, her heart raced with the sense that someone was peering right into her life, watching her every move. What if they had already seen Mia? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The unease deepened when Mr. Thompson, the elderly man who lived just down the street, started appearing at odd hours, his smile too wide, his voice too sweet. "How's little Mia doing in school?" he had asked, but the way he looked at her sent bone-chilling shivers down Sarah's spine. It was just his interest in her daughter that rattled her. It felt like he was pulling the strings of her reality, knowing too much, lurking just beyond the veil of friendship. As she listened to the whispers of fellow store employees and neighbors regarding families that had vanished without a trace, pressing her to take heed of the warnings, her world warped into paranoia. One night she heard soft cries drifting from the nearby wooded park while restocking the frozen aisle, and her heart sank. No one believed her when she reported it. The authorities brushed off her fears, insisting Oak Grove was a safe community. But safety became a fading memory, and each creak in the vinyl floor made her jump. Digging into the store's past became her obsession, clinging to fragments of truth in old newspaper clippings that told tales of a family involved in sinister rituals. Those who had crossed them disappeared, bound in the folklore that painted this town in blood-red shadows. The weight of those grocery bags felt unbearable, each one echoing with the dread of what might come next, the aisles pressing in like a vice. On this particular night, Sarah stepped out into the dark parking lot, her breath fogging in the chilly air. And then she froze, her pulse pounding in her ears. There stood Mr. Thompson, waiting by his car, the engine humming with a predatory rhythm. He waved, and she felt a chill run down her spine, a direct line to danger. "You can't protect her forever, Sarah," he whispered, pressing closer into her personal space, penetrating her defenses. Panic surged. Would she scream? Would anyone hear? As the shadows deepened around them and her instincts screamed at her to run, she caught sight of the cameras watching, and suddenly felt the full weight of her choice. Who could truly be trusted when the monster lurked in plain sight? Sarah staggered back, heart racing, the cold night air biting at her skin. Her instincts clawed at her, urging her to flee. But she couldn't just leave Mia. Not while Mr. Thompson stood there, a grotesque grin spreading across his face. "What do you mean?" she gasped, trying to buy time as panic curled like smoke around her. "What do you want?" "Want?" He chuckled, a sound that grated against her eardrums like nails on a chalkboard. "Oh, dear Sarah, it's not about want. It's about knowing what the others didn't." The way he leaned closer felt like poison creeping into the air. The shadows closed in around them, thick and suffocating. Sarah's thoughts raced. Was there really a dark presence lurking in Oak Grove? A sinister web spinning silently around her? She felt it then. The cameras above were not just watching her. They were recording this unfolding terror. A shiver crawled up her spine, settling in the base of her neck. You need to leave me alone! Her voice trembled, a raw edge of desperation slicing through it. But the defiance only seemed to thrill him. You're all part of the game now, Sarah. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. He slowly pulled a small object from his pocket, a blood-red pendant that glinted ominously under the flickering lights. The pendant swung back and forth, catching her gaze, like a pendulum of fate. A sense of dread unfurled within her, growing like a storm. Images of her daughter flashed across her mind, innocent and unaware, and fury surged within her chest. Get away from me! With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she turned on her heels, sprinting toward her car. Each step felt heavy, as if unseen hands were pulling her back, trying to drag her into the darkness that hung like a fog around Oak Grove. As she fumbled with her keys, hands shaking, she glanced back. Mr. Thompson was no longer at his car. Instead, he seemed to dissolve into the shadows. A cold sweat beaded at her brow. Had he gone? Or was he watching from another corner of the parking lot, a predator waiting patiently? But as she climbed into her car, locking the doors behind her, the unexpected thud against the roof made her jump. She stared up through the windshield, horrified. There it was, the camera. A red light blinked steadily, recording every moment, capturing the fear etched on her face. Frantically, she drove out, tires screeching against the pavement. The small town hummed with an eerie silence, but now it felt alive, every alley and corner concealing threats. Could she shake off the feeling of being hunted? Or had she stepped into a trap set long before she even noticed? That night Sarah's dreams were restless and twisted. Each turn pulled her deeper into the heart of Oak Grove's dark secrets. Whispers invaded her sleep, drifting through her mind like smoke. She saw flashes of people, families, all staring, their eyes hollow, trapped in a nightmare. The screams surged, enveloped in a crescendo of terror. When she finally awoke, the sun was already high, and her heart raced at images of hiding in the aisles, the cries from the park echoing in her ears as if they were real. As she struggled to shake off the nightmare, a sudden realization clawed at her. Mia had never come home from school. She jumped out of bed, a wave of panic crashing over her. She could hardly breathe. Grabbing her phone, she called the school, fingers trembling. "Where's my daughter?" The voice on the other end hesitated. I'm sure she is safe at home." "Home?" Sarah shouted, confusion set like ice in her veins. "No. She wasn't supposed to go home. She went to her friend's house." Silence filled the line before the voice returned. There's no record of her ever being picked up. The ground beneath her felt like it might swallow her whole. "It couldn't be. Get me the police. I need help." But as she hung up, she remembered Thompson's words. "You can't protect her forever." Leaving a trail of panicked breaths, she raced outside, determination stealing over her anxiety. She had to find Mia before it was too late, before whatever darkness enveloped Oak Grove reached into her life and snatched her child away. The shadows were still watching, and now they were after both of them. As Sarah hit the road, she felt the weight of the pendant around her neck, an unwanted reminder that the game had just begun. And she wasn't sure if she was playing to win or to survive. What could she uncover about the town's history before it was too late? The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, a foreboding blanket that seemed to pulse with dread. Sarah's heart raced as she sped through the empty streets of Oak Grove, desperately searching for signs of Mia. The town looked different in the daylight. Almost sinister houses peered down at her like silent sentinels, their windows like dark eyes filled with secrets. She skidded to a stop outside the corner store, its flickering sign casting an eerie glow on the pavement. Uncertainty settled in her gut. Could the store hold clues? Or would it plunge her deeper into the shadows? Pushing through the door, a jingle of bells announced her arrival. The air was stale, tinged with an ancient smell of dust and despair. Rows of empty shelves loomed before her, and the cool touch of the store's fluorescent lights offered little comfort. She walked hesitantly down the aisles, her footsteps echoing ominously, a solitary sound in an otherwise lifeless place. "Hello?" she called, her voice shaking. An unsettling silence answered, wrapping around her like a shroud. Sarah peered behind the counter, but no one was there. Anyone? She tried again, feeling the panic rise. Something was wrong. The store was supposed to be bustling with life, but it felt like a mausoleum. She pressed deeper into the aisles, searching for any sign of a worker or other customers. Then she saw a small note taped to the back of a shelf. It simply read, "You can't escape the truth. Find the pendant." Her blood ran cold. Was this meant for her? The words thrummed with an unsettling familiarity, and the weight of her pendant felt heavier around her neck. She instinctively looked up. The security cameras in the corners seemed to zero in on her. Glancing around, she noticed that none of the cameras had their little red lights blinking. They were all off. Panic clawed at her throat. What if someone was watching her? What if at that very moment, a figure hid in the shadows, waiting patiently to strike? Rushing back toward the door, she felt the air grow colder, thick with an invisible weight. As she stepped outside, a shout drew her attention, slicing through her rising fear. "Sarah!" She turned, almost falling over as she spotted Mike, a neighbor she barely knew. He was out of breath, fear etched into his features. "I've seen Mia!" Relief flooded through her, only to be replaced by confusion. "What do you mean? Where is she?" Mike's eyes darted nervously around the store. "I saw her in the park. She was with a group of kids, but something didn't feel right. They were just standing there, not moving, just staring." Her heart sank. Staring? At what? "I don't know. Just staring." It felt wrong. Was Thompson there? She couldn't shake the feeling that he was at the center of this. "No, but I overheard something. They mentioned the game." A chill swept through her veins. She clenched her fists. "I have to go back to the park. I'll find her. I have to." As Sarah turned to run, she heard the store door bang shut behind her. But when she glanced back, nothing was there. No sign of Mike, no sign of anyone at all. With renewed energy, she charged down the street. The shadows loomed closer, thickening around her with every step she took. The weight of the pendant suddenly felt like a noose around her neck, a binding reminder of the truth she was now hunting. As she approached the park, a chilling thought struck her. What if the truth was darker than she imagined? What if Mia was already part of the game? She burst into the park, eyes scanning the playground, the swings eerily still. Then she heard a distant whisper carry through the air. It wasn't the laughter of children. It was a voice, calling her name. Sarah, desperation clawed at her heart as she pushed through the trees, inching closer toward the sound. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find her daughter, or would she walk into Oak Grove's deepest nightmare? The trees closed around Sarah, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers, blocking out the light and amplifying the whispers that danced on the wind. Sarah, it felt like a taunt, echoing from every direction. Each time the name escaped, it grew more urgent, more desperate. Panic flooded her again, pulsing through her veins like ice. "Where are you, Mia?" she shouted, her voice cracking. The response was swallowed by a sudden gust, the breeze chilling her to the bone, as if the very air held its breath. Then she saw them, shadows flickering by the old slide. The kids. They stood like statues, completely still, their eyes blank and unblinking. She wanted to scream, to call out for Mia again, but a lump formed in her throat. What were they doing? They turned their heads in unison, like a macabre performance piece, each face devoid of expression. The whispers morphed into murmurs, a dissonant chant that brushed against her ears but never formed a coherent thought. With each step closer, dread wrapped around her, squeezing her lungs tight. "Hey!" she shouted, desperation fueling her heart. "Mia! Is that you?" One of the children tilted their head, a flicker of recognition flashing in their hollow gaze. It sent a jolt through Sarah. Was it Mia's stare? Sarah, the voice again, louder, echoing from within the crowd of frozen figures. Her heart raced fiercely, but with it came a flicker of hope. If Mia was here, there had to be a way to reach her. But as she pushed through the ring of children, they parted like a grim wall. Where the laughter of children should have been, there was only an unsettling silence. Just behind the first row, she spotted a familiar little girl, her hair shimmering with sunlight even amid the encroaching darkness. "Mia!" Sarah rushed toward her, her arms outstretched, but before she reached her daughter, a hand shot out from behind the line of immobile kids, catching her wrists like iron. "Leave her be." It was Thompson, his breath rancid with the smell of sweat and something else, something rotten. "You shouldn't have come looking for her. Let her go." She struggled, trying to wrench her arm free. He grinned, and the world around them blurred into nothingness. It felt as though time stopped, as if the darkness and shadows conspired to keep her confined in this moment. Every second stretched like an eternity. "Sarah, this is our game now," he hissed, eyes glinting with madness. "You have to play by the rules." As if summoned by his words, the other children began to chant, a spine-chilling rhythm that thrummed through the ground. Find the truth, find the truth. Cold fear gripped Sarah's heart. What truth? Her mind raced, analyzing each connection, each clue she had stumbled upon. The pendant, what did it have to do with any of this? "Why are you doing this?" she gasped, wrenching against his hold. "What do you want?" "It's simple," he said, voice lower now, almost conspiratorial. "To witness what happens when a mother is faced with the unknown, and what she will sacrifice to save her child." With a scream that cut through the chant, Sarah yanked her arm free. She stumbled, eyes wide, as the children closed ranks around Thompson, creating a wall of blurred faces and poisoned smiles. But one voice broke through their laughter, twisting into something jagged and sinister. "Find the pendant!" they shrieked, and that was the last thing she heard before their voices crescendoed into a cacophony of madness. The ground beneath her trembled. Sarah could feel the oppressive weight of darkness pressing down, an endless night of terror closing in. She had to find Mia. She had to find the truth. But the shadows whispered again. What truth? As she turned to flee, the figure of Thompson loomed behind her, and in a rush of cold realization, she understood something far worse. She was not just searching for Mia. She was playing a very dangerous game, where losing might mean losing everything. And just when she thought she had a moment to catch her breath, a silhouette appeared beyond the trees, someone stepping into view, cloaked in darkness. Was it a friend? Or an even greater nightmare? Sarah's heart thumped like a metronome, each beat matching the sinister chant reverberating from the children. The shadows twisted and wriggled as she scanned the surroundings, desperate for an escape route. Thompson, still grinning like a raving lunatic, crept closer, fusing into the darkness that wrapped around her like a shroud. Don't you realize? He taunted, his voice a low, mocking hiss. You're already part of this twisted game. The silhouette beyond the trees elongated and swayed, drawing her attention away from Thompson. Was it another child? Or perhaps someone who could help? She felt the urge to move toward that figure, but fear anchored her feet to the ground, muscles tense and ready to bolt. Let Mia go! Came Thompson's voice, its sickening sweetness causing the hair on the back of her neck to stand on end. You have to play first. Find the truth, or you'll lose her forever. Why me? She cried, searching Thompson's face for any semblance of humanity. What do you want from us? Just a show? I want to see how far you'll go. His tone was light, teasing, like a child holding the fate of a toy in their hands. You may think you'll fight screaming, clawing your way to Mia, but the truth is the hardest thing to find. The more she listened, the more she felt that the truth was not just one thing, it was layered, a dark labyrinth that twisted every beam of hope into despair. The whispers around her grew louder, a flood of chaotic sound that threatened to drown out her thoughts. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to block them out, trying to think, and then she remembered the pendant. It was a simple charm, nothing extravagant. It had connected them, a symbol of love and protection between mother and daughter. But what was hidden beneath its surface? Find the pendant! The children shrieked again, laughter bubbling beneath the surface. It was a blend of exhilaration and fear, a haunting melody that froze her choice, a choice she knew had dire consequences. The silhouette moved again, stepping forward, breaking the spell of the trees. A flash of familiar features, brief and blurred, sent her heart racing. Could it be? Had Mia's presence slipped through the edges of this nightmare? Mommy! A voice pierced through the din, aching and vulnerable. The crowd of children fell silent, their collective gaze shifting toward the source. Mia! It was her daughter's voice, clear as day, yet muffled by the darkness pressing against Sarah's consciousness. Help me! Adrenaline surged. Sarah took a hesitant step forward, but the children solidified their barrier. Their hands outstretched, fingers curling like creeping vines, tightening around her. There's no way out until you play, Thompson whispered, a chilling calm enveloping him. The children echoed in unison, the phrase puncturing the eerie silence, sending tremors of dread through Sarah's chest. Find the truth or lose everything. Mommy! Mia called again, voice strained and breaking. The silhouette lingered in the shadows, growing menacing, nothing but a promise of dread. Sarah felt the ground shifting beneath her, her resolve breaking at the edge of catastrophe. I won't let you take her! She shouted into the abyss, gathering the remnants of her courage. But as she stepped closer, the barriers of darkness solidified. Panic clawed at her, and with one last desperate glance at the shadows, she realized something horrific. Was she truly ready to uncover the truth? The whisper steadied, waiting for her next move. A consequence awaited, one that could take everything she held dear. What lay ahead gripped her with horror. Would she find Mia, or would she stumble further into the abyss of this twisted game? The choice loomed heavy, and the dawn of understanding felt ever elusive. Then, amidst the chaos, the silhouette shifted again, revealing a face behind the darkness, one that would change everything she thought she knew. Who was this figure, and did they hold the key to finding Mia or sealing both their fates forever? The figure stepped into the dim light, a face split by shadows and illuminated just enough to send a jolt through Sarah's chest. She squinted, straining to recognize the familiar features. But it was like staring at a warped reflection of someone she once knew. Sarah, the figure spoke, voice echoing from a deep well of sorrow. Her heart raced, but not just from fear. Was this betrayal disguised as hope? You have to listen to me. What do you want? She gasped, torn between running and reaching out. The children circled closer, their chant rising and falling like waves against the craggy shore, each lap dragging at her sanity. Your daughter. The figure's face twisted in anguish. Mia is trapped. But you must understand the pendant, it's the key. The pendant? Sarah echoed, her mind whirling, memories rushing back of afternoons spent crafting necklaces and charms. What do you mean? Find it. The figure urged, stepping closer, tension saturating the air. It's not just a piece of metal. It contains the truth, the bond you both share. But it also holds darkness that could consume you both. With every syllable, the children howled, shutting down her resolve. Their shrieks mixed with laughter, rolling like thunder, electrifying the night. She felt their excitement, their hunger for chaos. Could this mysterious figure truly help her, or was it another facet of this twisted game? Look for the light in the dark, the figure continued, urgency coiling around their voice. The pendant will reveal everything, who Thompson truly is, why this all began. But you must hurry, time is short. Time? Panic flooded her veins. What are you talking about? Where is Mia? The figure's expression darkened, and the laughter of the children turned sinister. If you fail, the darkness will consume her, and you'll remain lost. Forever. Enough! Thompson snapped, the smile returning to his face, dripping with malice. This charade is over. You've had your chance to see, but now it's time to play. The children lunged forward, a sea of small bodies rushing against her, fingers twitching like ravenous scavengers. Sarah stumbled back, her eyes wild. She could see desperation in the figure's eyes, just for a moment before the shadows swallowed them. Mommy, please! Mia's voice cried from the void, raw, wet with fear. Heart racing, Sarah turned her gaze back to the children, their faces twisted and grinning in terrible ecstasy. Find the truth, Sarah. They jeered, their voices an echo inside her skull. You must find the pendant. Before it's too late. The world spun, the trees swayed, and shadows began to swirl around her. Panic gripped her harder than ever before. She could feel the ground drop away, the edges of reality fraying. "Stop!" she yelled. "I want to play your game." But the laughter grew louder, and she felt cold hands, tiny and forceful, wrapping around her wrists. She was being dragged backward, into the deepening abyss, as darkness promised to swallow her whole. Sarah clutched her pendant tightly, desperate for its warmth, its connection to Mia. But even that flicker of hope began to dim, the shadows suffocating her will. The whispers, the laughter, they all melded into an indistinct roar. She closed her eyes, willing herself to hear Mia, to feel her presence through the chaos. Clouds of uncertainty loomed thick, and as she opened her eyes again, she saw something bright glimmering beyond the encroaching dark. Was it the pendant? Or a cruel illusion? She couldn't tell anymore. Dread pulled at her, the weight of reality collapsing around her shoulders. But she had to decide. To plunge deeper into despair or seize the light and risk losing everything. As the darkness tightened, she lunged toward the glimmer, heart pounding. But would it lead her to Mia or the end of hope? The choice awaited her, and the truth loomed just beyond reach, shrouded in horror. What would she discover? In that moment, a silence fell, thick and heavy, before the maelstrom reignited. The darkness swirled around Sarah, each breath coming in sharp gasps, as if the air itself had turned to ice. She felt the cold fingers clutching her wrists loosen for just a moment, and it was all she needed to propel herself toward the glimmering light. But the brightness flickered, teasing her with revelations like a distant star. Was it real, or just the embodiment of her desperate hope? The cacophony of children's laughter swelled, echoing through the mist of her panic. It warped, twisted, becoming a sinister symphony that clawed at her mind. Sarah stumbled, her feet dragging through the damp ground until she managed to push forward, the light sharpening with every frantic step. She could feel the shadows recoiling, some part of them gorging on her fear, filling their empty bellies with her despair. Suddenly, the air crackled around her as Thompson's presence loomed heavy. "You can't escape," he whispered, his words curling around her like smoke. "Only I can offer you the truth." "No!" she screamed, shaking her head, as if that action could break the chains binding her to this nightmare. But in the depths of her heart, she realized he was part of it. Thompson's malicious grin shadowed her every thought, piercing her with memories of laughter now turned to echoes of dread. "Leave her alone!" The shout cut through the darkness, unexpected and fierce. The mysterious figure materialized again, breaking through the haze, their eyes locking onto Sarah's with urgent intensity. "Find the pendant!" they urged, their voice a blend of anguish and resolve. "It's your only hope. The truth lies within." But as they reached out for her, the children surged forward like a tidal wave, overwhelming Sarah with their relentless energy. Tiny hands clutched at her limbs, laughter turning into a chorus of screams that pricked at her sanity. "You'll never find it. You'll never escape." Trapped in a vortex of noise, Sarah strained against the weight of their grip. Desperation clawed at her throat, but she focused on the figure's words, latching on to the one thread of clarity in the chaos. She had to find that pendant. Her heart raced as she pushed her way through the throng, their shrieks rising and crashing against her like waves, and the glimmer beckoned just ahead. The shadows thickened, the light flickered, but she felt the warmth of hope reignite in her chest. "Mommy, help me!" Mia's voice pierced through the chaos, echoing from somewhere unknown, drawing Sarah toward the light as if maternal instinct held more power than fear. "Keep moving, Sarah! Trust the light!" The figure shouted, their face highlighted in urgency and anchor in the storm of terror. Dropping to her knees, she grasped at the ground, feeling the cool earth beneath her fingers. The laughter turned to disdain, mocking her efforts as the darkness tightened around her. "You'll be lost forever!" Sarah's pulse raced. She plunged her hand into the dirt along the path, searching blindly with frantic determination. Sweat dripped from her brow, the weight of the shadows pressing down harder with every passing second. Then, her fingers brushed against something smooth metal, cool and sharp-edged. A metallic pendant? Heart pounding, she yanked it from the ground. There it was, a small charm sparkling under the fleeting light, intricate designs swirling around its surface like a gentle breeze. But a terrible feeling pierced her gut. What truth lay within this object? What darkness waited to spill forth? Before she could even attempt to decipher its meaning, the ground quaked beneath her. The laughter grew to a chilling roar, shadows closing in like a suffocating embrace. Sarah clutched the pendant tightly, the darkness swirling with fury. "Mommy! Save me!" Mia's voice pierced the air again, closer now but riddled with confusion and fear, pulling Sarah deeper into the maelstrom. "Do you really wish to uncover the truth, Sarah?" Thompson's voice echoed, layered with mockery. "There's a price to every answer." Breathless, Sarah faced the choice: open the pendant and confront whatever horrors it might unleash, or retreat into the comforting shadows. As she held it to her chest, heart racing, a shudder ran through her. What if the truth was worse than she could even imagine? The choice loomed, heavy with consequence. What awaited her on the other side of the light? Somewhere in the chaos, she heard Mia again, her voice now laced with desperation as the world spun into a blur. Then darkness fell once more, swallowing the last remnants of hope. The shadows roared. Sarah felt the weight of the darkness pressing against her skin, suffocating and oppressive. The pendant burned against her palm, its cold surface seemed to pulse with life, as if it were breathing alongside her frantic heart. Desperation clawed at her throat, the terrible realization that she might lose Mia forever shuddering through her. "Open it!" The figure shouted again, their voice feeling further away, drowned out by the cacophony of unleashed chaos. "You must know the truth." Trembling, Sarah looked at the pendant, its intricate design twisting in the flickering light. What lay within? A truth she couldn't bear? Or a weapon against Thompson's grip? She wiped sweat from her brow, the air thick with dread. "Mommy!" Mia's cry sliced through the noise, sharper and closer, a beacon of her little girl's fear. The sound ignited an urge to act, to do something, anything. In a single blurred motion, Sarah yanked the pendant open. The metal clicked as the latch released, and an eerie luminescence burst forth, bright and blinding. She shielded her eyes as the light expanded, swirling, growing. It filled the darkness around her, illuminating the children's drawn faces twisted in anguish, their laughter now replaced by a hollow silence. From the pendant, Elysium came forth, not hope, but a vision, each fractured memory flooding into her mind. She saw fragments of Mia, playing joyfully in the park, laughter filling the space around them. Then it warped, transformed into scenes of shadows reaching out, wrapping tightly around them, pulling Mia away from her grasp. It was the night the world had cracked open. The moment that led to this horror. "No!" Sarah's voice was a strangled cry as fresh terror struck. "Not again!" Thompson's laughter echoed, dark and twisting. "You think you can escape this? You think you can forget?" The light from the pendant shot towards Thompson, a blinding beam that cut through the shadows. He snarled, momentarily blinded, a primal rage flickering within his eyes. But the children began to close in again, shadowy figures shackled by despair. They surged towards Sarah, their faces shifting between joy and torment, the depths of their pain clawing through her heart. "Let us out!" One screamed, their voice merging with the others, a choir of lost souls. Sarah felt them compact around her, their tiny, cold hands reaching for her. The pendant! Would it set them free? Or would it doom her and Mia to the same fate? Her heart raced as she processed everything, the memories flooding back, the screams filling the air. "Help us!" they begged, their cries rising in a frenzied crescendo. "No!" the word erupted from Sarah's throat. "You're trapped. You're not real." "Not real?" Thompson sneered, his voice oozing ice. "They're as real as your fear, Sarah. You can't escape their suffering." The pendant flickered, and Sarah clutched it tighter, her fingers trembling furiously. She faced the choice: cast the light toward them, potentially saving them, or turn it against Thompson, the monster who had taken everything from her. "Mia!" she shouted, trying to cut through the fog of dread. "I'm coming for you." The chilling silence wrapped around her again, squeezing her heart like a vice. "What are you willing to sacrifice for her?" Can you bear the truth? The question hung heavy in the air, echoing against the cavernous despair. The shadows surged, impending devastation drawing closer. In that moment, Sarah recognized the truth she'd run from, the one that might shatter her very sanity. She had to choose now: would she plunge into the light or plunge into the darkness? Would she reveal the truth or seek to bury it once again? In the face of despair, Sarah felt Mia's presence flickering in the distance, a promise, a hope. But the darkness threatened to swallow her whole. With every beat of her heart, the decision loomed closer, and the ground began to tremble once more, foreboding, ominous. What lingered on the edge of that light, waiting to expose itself? As the shadows closed in, she had only an instant to decide. The shadows clawed at Sarah's mind, a relentless grip that tightened with every second. The radiant light from the pendant flickered as her heart raced, splitting her loyalty between the whispering souls and her desperate love for Mia. "What do I do?" she gasped, her breath hitching in a frantic squeeze of fear and resolve. She felt their despair push against her, squeezing tighter, like a vice threatening to crush her spirit. She pushed the memories of laughter and joy aside, focusing on the darkness swirling around them, threatening to silence everything she cherished. "Mommy, please!" Mia's voice cut through, pure and pleading, a sound that brought her back to the present. The shadows responded, writhing as if aware of her turmoil. The children grew restless, their cries morphing into a spectral howl, echoing through the abyss. "Pick!" Thompson's voice sliced through the chaos, cruel and taunting. "Reveal the truth, or suffer alongside the lost." The choice thundered in her chest. Could she expose what she had buried so deep? Did she have the courage to shine a light on that painful truth? The pendant pulsed in her hand, a heartbeat synced with her own, a twisted rhythm of fear and courage. "Stay back!" she shouted into the mass of shadows, raising the pendant higher. "You don't own me!" The brilliance intensified, scattering the shadows momentarily. They shrieked, a sound that manifested her deepest fears: abandonment, loss, the gnawing worry of never hearing Mia's laughter again. "Get out!" she screamed, pushing the light towards Thompson. The beam glided through the murk, igniting a crack of light that widened, revealing snippets of the dark world he had constructed around them. But the children didn't retreat. They surged forward, elongated hands reaching for her, pulling. One child, a girl with sunken eyes and tattered clothes, locked onto her gaze. "Help us! Please don't leave us!" "Let go!" Sarah bellowed, panic spiraling through her. The darkness wrapped tighter, suffocating her resolve. Suddenly, Mia's laughter cut through the shadows, a sound that melted the ice around Sarah's heart. What if she could rescue them? The realization came crashing down, heavy and sharp. This wasn't about a choice, it was a chance. A chance to break down the walls imprisoning not just Mia, but every soul trapped here. "Mia, hold on!" she yelled, focusing on her daughter's spirit, bright and strong. A fierce determination ignited within her. Searching the depths of her fading memories, she drew out that one pivotal moment, the true horror that Thompson had created. With a swift motion, she thrust the pendant towards the surging darkness and called upon the light within. "By the truth, I release you." Suddenly, the light exploded, engulfing everything, weaving through the shadows like fire. Thompson's laughter turned to rage, a deep roar that rattled the foundations of the cursed realm. The children shrieked, their silhouettes flickered, caught between realities. Sarah felt the weight of their suffering, heard their cries mingling with her own heartbeat. They were alive! They were real! "Sarah!" Mia's voice rang clearer, sharper. But the power of the light struggled against the thrashing darkness. The shadows were furious now, swirling into a monstrous tempest threatening to strike back at her. "Hold on, Mia!" she shouted over the chaos. Sarah pushed through a force of will, a mother's fight clawing at the edges of despair. But just as victory seemed near, the light began to shudder. A crack appeared in the air, widening grotesquely, and Sarah felt the ground beneath her tremble. The shadows retaliated, a dark tide surging forward, pulling everything back. "Mommy!" With one last effort, Sarah reached out, heart pounding, breath hitching, the weight of the world on her shoulders. Was this the moment that would either free them, or plunge them deeper into the abyss? As the shadows encroached nearer, she could only hear the echoes of Thompson's maniacal laughter rising above the chaos. What terrifying revelation would dawn once more, now that the truth was unleashed? The light from the pendant surged around Sarah like a tidal wave, washing over the dark figures that had tormented her. It felt like 1,000,000 stars had exploded in the night sky, illuminating the shadows that had clung to the edges of her soul. She had the power to change everything now. "Mia!" she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos, ringing like a bell of hope. "I'm coming for you." She could see her daughter, pushing through the throng of children who seemed to be caught in a stasis of sorrow, their eyes reflecting the terror and pain that had been forced upon them. Sarah's heart soared just at the sight of Mia, but it also tore at her, pulling her toward the knowledge that she had to act. "Hold on, baby! Hold on to our love!" Sarah yelled, rallying her strength. She clutched the pendant, its warmth pulsing through her fingers, resonating with the love she felt for her daughter, a blinding beacon against Thompson's darkness. "Find the truth or lose everything," Thompson sneered, his voice echoing with malice, seeking to drown her out. But Sarah felt something shift within her. It was as if the pendant whispered the answers she needed, layers of forgotten memories mingling with the present, illuminating the truth she had buried deep in her heart. She remembered every moment of laughter, every tear, every magical day with Mia, all blending together until a single realization crystallized in her mind. "No!" she screamed, shaking off the last vestiges of fear. "You don't get to control us. You don't own our story." With that, she thrust the pendant toward Thompson, a beam of radiant brilliance cutting through the gathering shadows. The darkness writhed in response, breaking apart as if it were made of thin smoke, screaming in defiance. Suddenly, the children began to blink and shake, their expressions shifting from hollow to full of life. The light flooded their souls, unraveling the chains that bound them. "Mia! Focus on me!" Sarah urged, her voice shaking with urgency. "We're getting out of here. I am fighting for you." The darkness pulsed, a last desperate effort, as tiny hands reached for her. "Help us!" they cried, their voices intertwining with her daughter's pleas. "Don't leave us! Don't abandon us!" Sarah's heart broke at their innocence, their pain striking a chord deep within her. "I won't leave you!" she shouted, suddenly filled with purpose. "I won't abandon you! I promise!" The light swelled, radiating further, easing the shadows away as if they were mere nasty memories being banished from her mind. She concentrated on the pendant, and the unbreakable bond she shared with Mia. As she reached out for her daughter, the shadows hesitated, confused by the overwhelming radiance. Sarah felt the world stop for an instant, suspended between light and dark. "Mommy!" Mia shrieked again, and the sound broke through, igniting something fierce within Sarah. "Hold on!" Sarah cried, her voice firm, her heart unyielding. With a determined push, she stepped forward, breaking into the crowd, reaching for Mia. The children parted like a curtain, revealing Mia at last, a small beacon of light amidst the dark. Mia's frightened face transformed into one of pure determination, her little hands outstretched, grasping for the brightest strand of love. "Mommy!" she cried once more, and that one word was all the encouragement Sarah needed. The two were inches apart now, the ground shaking as shadows whipped around them like a hurricane. "I'm here! I'm coming for you!" And as their fingers finally interlaced, a blinding beam shot forth, illuminating the abyss around them. The laughs of darkness faded into a soft echo, and Thompson's malicious grin faltered, giving way to shock and fury. "Mia!" Sarah's voice broke, their bond the anchor that propelled them forward. Together, they stood against the void. With a final, desperate surge, Sarah held the pendant aloft. Its power exploded outward, washing away the remnants of the darkness while the pulse of light swept through, freeing the lost soul's chain beneath the grip of despair. In a blinding flash, the haunting landscape began to shift. Colors regained their vibrancy, discordant screams morphed into joyous laughter, and the children around them transformed, their expressions brightening, and life returning to their eyes. "Thank you?" they shouted, forming a circle around Sarah and Mia, and in that shared moment of connection, the pain of their past faded as the darkness began to dissipate entirely. Thompson stumbled back, his body enveloped in shadows. "This isn't over," he howled, but his power waned with each moment. "Never!" Sarah shouted back, and with a final exclamation of love, the light engulfed him, dragging him into the oblivion he had wrought, the shadows screaming in protest. Sarah and Mia stood, enveloped in the warmth of the radiant glow, bodies quaking in relief. The darkness that had threatened to consume them disappeared, leaving only faint whispers of memories behind. As they embraced, a safety permeated through them. They had made it. The game was over. "I love you, Mommy," Mia whispered, her voice soft and comforting. "I love you too, baby," Sarah replied, pressing her face into her daughter's hair, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. "Always." With the shadows finally receding, the world felt new once more. As the sun began to rise over Oak Grove, its rays kissed away the night's horrors, promising a fresh start. They stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to leave the past behind and face whatever future awaited them, together. But before they could take another step, Sarah found herself holding the pendant one last time, its light flickering gently. The truth about love, sacrifice, and the darkness they had conquered wrapped around her like a protective blanket. The weight was gone. They had survived the game. They turned back one final time, and as they left the shadows behind, a new journey unfurled before them, bright and bold and filled with everything they had worked to save. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of standing by the channel through these actions.